Today I'm gonna be reading on how you underestimated and how much. So this yellow jade is gonna be pile one. This metal marker ball is gonna be pile two. And this tiger's eye is gonna be pile three. Hi pile one chose this yellow jade crystal. Spirit, how much is pile one underestimated? Five of Cups in reverse. Strength. The Fool. The Empress reversed. How much are you underestimated? It's like to some people, you're really intimidating. Like to most people. Some people just write you off and they're like, oh, whatever. They like write you off as like your physical appearance. But like anybody who can see past physical appearance, even if they're still shallow or superficial people, if they have the ability to see someone's energy, they're intimidated by you. But how are you underestimated? Um, well, how much? I feel like it varies, but how? I feel like you're underestimated in what you build, like the things you've built as like a person, as who you are, maybe creative projects or like strong relationships, or even financial foundations or home foundations, um, or maybe even you're someone who builds, like a builder. Um, you are underestimated in the workplace. Like people don't. Everyone always needs you, but they don't see your value. Like they don't see that you're kind of like the glue keeping everyone together. And if you left, they would need a replacement. They would need somebody in your spot because it's kind of you're irreplaceable. It's kind of valuable, and like nobody would live up to how much you helped them. Or I feel like for you, Pile One, this comes to anything: relationships, finances, creative work, all that stuff. Um, you just have a strong sense for building it in a stable way, um, and going towards things in a stable way and a balanced. And you're just underestimated in that way. Like people don't see that, or maybe people around you assume that like you aren't those things, or you're not good at building certain things. Um, Maybe you've been in relationships with people who thought you weren't like putting effort into the relationship, or building it and growing it. Um, why people don't see this in you is kind of like an injustice you've always experienced, because this is like a big strength you have, is being able to build strong relationships and strong, just be able to build strong foundations and see and not only see the stability in things but also create it. And maybe you've just been taken advantage of, or like people willingly don't see how valuable that is and how much they take from you, just because they need that stability of like someone who can actually build things instead of just destroying them. It's a like don't know what I had until I lost it energy. Like people who build things with you or have worked with you and like worked on a project about building something, or maybe some people even trying to be in competition with you, where y'all were doing completely different things or separate things. And these people just not seeing how you could. It's like instead of people seeing that you do that, they think you're like privileged or like you're getting your sources from someone else, or you're like cheating or something, or lying about it, or either too lazy or working too hard. So you're definitely just underestimated in your stability and your ability to build stable things. I feel like you're the type of person who isn't bothered by being underestimated. So that's like a huge strength you have, is like letting people underestimate you, and believing in your own strength no matter what other people think, so that it just, your strength just comes through, your stability just comes through. 555 on the clock when I said that, whether or not people believe in it or not. Five of Cups reverse. I feel like it's like this double-edged sword where people will like feel intimidated by you, or feel like they shouldn't underestimate you, or feel like there's like something there that's just like valuable and strong. And they'll see that about you and they'll like be jealous, or they'll be awed, or they'll be like, oh, that's cool, or this person seems like a cool person, or other people will be like, I don't like them. And people will see that, but at the same time, like they acknowledge that, but at the same time, like they're like, they couldn't be that good. Pile one couldn't be that good. Like they're probably just full of themselves or something. Even if they're like respecting you, they're just like writing it off as like, oh, it's whatever. That's just like the vibe that person has. That's not everybody. Some people do like admire you truly and like see that power, and they don't underestimate you or anything. But it's like there is a lot of energy where still people like, we're kind of like acknowledging that you're different, but they're like, yeah, whatever. And then ending up being surprised later on by your actions or your words. Like really surprised. Like that came from this person. When you were showing your true self the entire time, you hadn't changed at all. Their perspective of you just changed because it's easy for people to just want to write you off as soon as they see that like strength energy of like not to be underestimated. Because maybe you're sort of physically, your looks are on the fence of like intimidating or someone you would underestimate, like but it's more like your energy that holds the intimidation. So it's easier for people to just write you off because of your physical looks or whatever, or however they judge your physical body. Or even them judging your energy, just being scared by how intimidated they are by it, it makes them want to write you off and underestimate you. Because it's like, they couldn't actually be that. Palwyn couldn't actually be that good. I know they think they could, but I don't actually believe that. And then they're surprised later on. They're like, damn. That's a funny thing about underestimating someone. But at the same time, people do like acknowledge that there's something different about you and that you shouldn't be underestimated. So it's like a double-edged sword. feel like you're underestimated in your ability to move on and let go of things, like to just get the fuck over it. Um, Maybe you're the type of person who gets heated really quickly, but then is able to forgive someone just as quickly or get over the situation. I feel like most people assume that you are as hung up about things as they are, or you care as much about past events or something that happened between y'all as they do. But in reality, you're sort of like very quick to move on. You're the type of person to like immediately when something happens, you're like, let's try to fix this, let's try to heal this, let's try to move on from this, because you're not the type of person to dwell on the past unless it's necessary as part of healing. You're not the type of person to like stay stuck about those kind of things or like let those kind of unimportant things hold you back from your own path and your own like clarity of mind. So you're able to move on quickly. But meanwhile, everybody's thinking, oh, Padawan still cares about it. Padawan is still so hung up about this. You know how I can tell? Look, they do this. Look at them. Look at the... You remember when they said that? Yeah, that's how I know. But the whole time, they were just, like, picking at straws. There's nothing there. It's kind of a nice way to be underestimated because, like, these people will be so cocky about thinking that you care so much about something, or that you can't move on from your own personal hardships or embarrassment, and the whole time you've been like, I have already forgotten about it, or I've already gotten over it. This actually probably pisses some people off who like stay stuck. Because they assume that you're on the same level as them or you are on the same, like... It's like people will get mad because they're like, what do you mean you moved on? What do you mean you don't care anymore? Like, I know you're still obsessed. It's like they're convinced in their mind that, like, Padawan is totally obsessed with like everything that's wrong with them. Padawan totally hates themselves. Padawan totally can't get over their past and their trauma and their wounds. That's why they act as this. It's like people assume when you're expressing yourself creatively that like you're doing it because you haven't moved on from shit. But it's like the whole time you are in the process of healing yourself and moving on from a lot of things. So these people around you like perceive your self-healing as like not being able to move on, but that's just how they underestimate you. They like don't understand you, like your power to not give a shit about shit that no longer applies to you, or just empty cups. Those cups are empty, and I'm focusing on these cups that are full, the 5 cups in reverse. I don't care about the 3 empty cups. I really don't. With the Fool here, you probably it's like people see you as childish, or they think that you dress weird, or even talk weird, or that your mannerisms are weird, or that you just act childish, or like you don't care what other people think about you, basically. People get so hung up about this. They're like, why doesn't Padawan care what other people think about them? Don't they know they look like a fool? Just like doing what they want and not caring what other people think. It's not that like you're up in other people's business, crossing their boundaries type fool behavior, but you're just being yourself and not being hung up about it behavior. And people are like confused, like, doesn't Padawan know they're a fool? That's another way you're underestimated. Is like people are so quick to write you off as foolish or childish or weird or even attention seeking. when you're just embodying your child energy, you're just enjoying yourself and expressing yourself, you know? And you're not trying to look pretty or something doing it. You're not trying to look like, you're not trying to make it all, again, philosophical and valuable and deep for everyone. I don't know. You just let things be light and fun. You let yourself express yourself that way. And like other people see it as sort of a weakness, but like for you, it's a power. It kind of like helps you be less burdened. It's like, I don't think you realize how much doing that inner child healing and opening up to your inner child with the world and letting yourself do that has really helped you and healed you, Pile One, because you're not afraid to do that and you don't judge yourself for it at all. So it's like, you don't really understand why other people judge you for it, because you see that realness as beautiful, and it is that is the realest thing. That is the most beautiful thing. And that's what's funny about it, is people think that you're being a fool, but it's actually one of your like strongest powers. It's a huge strength within you, is this ability to tap in and freely express your inner child. You don't care about what you dress. People like think that, oh, this person dresses all like homeless, you know, and then you like start talking really deeply and smartly and they're like, huh? Or people will think like, you're too frizzy, you're too much. There's too much of you. Your clothes, your hair, it's all too much. But it's like, that's just you. You know, it's not like you're trying out here to be like attention seeking. That's just what you look like. And it's like the type of things you don't have to put effort into. The parts of yourself you don't have to put effort into. And they just flow out of you. And people underestimate those parts of you. They're like, anybody could do that. I could do that. But it's hard to be vulnerable. It's hard to let go and like not judge yourself, you know? Or not care what other people think. The Empress reversed. This gives me the vibes where like you are a courteous person, you are a civil person to a certain extent. Like you are never gonna immediately like be like swing first, ask questions later. You are always going to be a civil person just because you would expect the same respect from anyone else. But it's like people underestimate your ability to be a bitch to the point of it like actually being scary and very dark. Because people will see like this Empress energy of like balanced, being able to receive, let things come to you, just letting things come and go as they may, letting things be. When like things are getting aggravated around you, people see that about you and they're like, easy target. They couldn't defend themselves, they couldn't do this, they couldn't do that. And then they boom, mind blown. Like as soon as you switch up with this Empress energy and you're like, you thought this was all I could be, you thought this is all I was. It's like people can't comprehend. Maybe this is like some sort of gender expression you have. Or like people are so surprised by your masculine side, or when you present more masculine, that they're like, huh? What? Yeah, it's like people write you off. They like underestimating you as being like super feminine or super like, and like they don't even think of it in like a balanced way. They think of it in like a derogatory way, where maybe you attract a lot of like misogynists or something, or people who hate their feminine side and they just want to attack you and your feminine side and your femininity that you naturally express. But it's like people are so easily like, oh, I could totally just be mean to this person. They couldn't do anything about it because they would just sit there and they'd probably just cry. But then they get so surprised when you like completely just dismember them with just your words, and you don't even lift a finger, you don't even blink, you're just like, who the fuck do you think you are? And like you leave these people shaking and crying in the dirt like Five Pentacles energy, and they're like, what? It's like they can't, it's like people feel slapped by your masculine energy because they never like saw that about you. They had always just, I don't know, completely acted like that didn't exist, or like just underestimating you in that way, where they thought, oh, Pawan could never do that. Pawan could never like take action. Pawan could never like do something that would make me stop harassing them, like. And you are actually really scary when provoked. You are actually really scary when provoked. Like the words that come out of your mouth, and especially if you get physical, if like you're driven to the point where you get physical, like I'm not even joking you have like haunted people. Like the look in your eyes has haunted people. Even years later in the future, where like they underestimated you, and then they were just so shocked once they got a taste of like that medicine that it just haunted them for years and years and years. So you're underestimated in your masculinity and your ability to take action. You're underestimated in your inner child and ability to not be non-judgmental of yourself, and be the sort of the fool in the situation, or the joker that everyone sort of like looks down upon, when there's actual strength in that. You're underestimated in your strength and your ability to build strong foundations in anything you go towards. And you're underestimated in your ability to move on and let go of things that no longer serve you or no longer bring fulfillment to your life. That's your reading, pile 1. Hey there, pile 2. This can be your reading on how are you underestimating, how much. Spirit, how is pile 2 underestimated? The Hangman. You're underestimated in your sacrifices and how much you sacrifice for, and how particularly drastic your sacrifices are. What else? What else? Four of Swords. You're underestimated in your ability to think and communicate intellectually and your ideas. Give me one more card. 8 of Wands reverse. You're definitely underestimated in your ability to just keep quiet and not say anything at the perfect times. How much you're how much you're underestimated? I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, you're underestimated about a 7. There's like a small, that like 3, other 3 is like the amount of people, the small amount of people who are able to like see more than just the book of the cover of the book, but most of the time are underestimated. The thing is, anyone who's ever underestimated you has ended up like regretting it. Like really regretting it. Like Four of Cups just sitting there like, where did I go wrong? Where was my mistake? um, like people get really hung up over the fact that they underestimated you, or like whatever happened because they underestimated you, and thought they could do something or pull something on you. Um, just so much regret, so much regret. Like I'm feeling it in my chest. Like no, like this is some kneel down and cry and scream in the rain, motherfuckers. Like dramatic, dramatic. But you're just a really powerful person. So, like, you do get underestimated most of the time, and I think that's because of your ability to keep quiet and only speak at, like, the perfect moment. It's like if people are provoking you or trying to get you to say something or, like, trying to get a rise out of you a certain way, or even just, like, manipulating a certain way and it's subtle. It's like you only say the bare minimum words that you need to say. You're very careful about what you say. You only speak when there really needs to be an answer. And you know how to keep your mouth shut when there's nothing to be said. So I feel like that's a huge component in why you get so often underestimated, is because you're just really smart, like strong, like intense person, and you know better about most things. So it's easy for people to just write you off as quiet, or a nerd or something. I don't know how to explain it, but because you're willing to just hide yourself, you don't really care about your ego as much, you know? You're willing to do what needs to be done. So it makes sense that you get underestimated a lot often, because you aren't particularly trying to be estimated at your certain point. You are sort of trying to not let people catch on. And this definitely goes into your Four of Swords energy of like being able to intellectualize really strongly. You probably have strong Mercury placements, especially in ties to Aries. But the truth is, you can really break someone down with your words. You have like Scorpio energy of like being able to hit right where it hurts. But you, and it's very logical, and it's always at the right time, and it's as little words as possible. But it hits like lightning on a tower and everything's falling down. It's like you asked for it, you wanted to know the answer, you kept provoking for an answer, so you got an answer. Like people are like, no, once you've like opened your mouth and said something, they're like, I feel like people get really upset about your ability to have such strong grammar and logic and rhetoric, and it makes them look like a fool, you know, because they sat there and they thought, oh, Pal 2 is dumb, Pal 2 doesn't know anything, Pal 2 is so young, they don't know anything, Pal 2 is so old, they can't get with the program, they can't possibly understand the new generation. Like, people will think you're just quiet, you know, until you say exactly what needs to be said at the right moment, and they're like genuinely moved. They're like, yeah, you're right. And it's like those little moments is what makes people be like, maybe I shouldn't be underestimating Pal 2. Maybe I should be a little more wary of like how I treat and respect them. But that's what makes you like be so cautious about when to talk, and that's what makes you keep your mouth shut most of the time, because you know that like once you do talk, people are going to be listening and like a little bit intimidated, and they're gonna see that like real glimpse of like you that like actually sees through the logic of the whole situation and is very smart about it. So yeah. Some of you probably listen to King Seth subliminals, and if you don't, you should. Like Mad King Seth. He's like does astrological subliminals, but I keep hearing different subliminals by him in my head while I'm doing this reading. Like you just have that intense like formidable like spirit. And you get underestimated, but as soon as people get a glimpse, they're like, I'll never underestimate you again. um, the Hangman. Again, Scorpio energy I'm feeling here. You know exactly where and when to like shed your ego and shed a past self to be able to move forward in the most progressive and accurate way. Even when this has cost you very... Like, these are some major sacrifices you made that could have included major creature comforts or things in your life that, like, relationships in life that you, like, I don't know, like, these are really major things that took a lot for you to be able to sacrifice. And it's so funny because people will think that you got your soul stolen by the devil, like you sold your soul to the devil or something. When they look into your eyes or they get a glimpse of like your true logic and intellectual side, because you've grown so much by your ability to like pinpoint where exactly you need to change and shed your ego to be able to move forward. And you've created such the strong person, the strong spirit within yourself that that is tailored exactly to your manifestations of your desires, because you are able to like choose your new skin just like that over and over again the more you learn and grow. And you're very focused on this. You're like, you feel it's very important, not only for you but for the collective, because you are the type of person who sees how your abilities and your words and your actions affect other people. So you're just a very evolved person. Like, you've made a lot of sacrifices. You're very wise no matter your age. You've just gone through a lot of deep experiences that the average person doesn't go through. Like a lot of Scorpio being forced to shed your ego type experiences. But this has caused you to grow into this very flexible person. 1111 on the clock when I said that, like very flexible and adaptable to anything. And you sort of use this adaptation and these new circumstances that you feel you're forced into, or that's how you used to feel. You use those things to flow with the movement of your own trajectory and direction of progress and growth. Even in the midst of losing your ego and losing those parts of yourself, and literally those parts of yourself dying, major parts of yourself. So you're just very wise, very wise. It's probably what makes you so smart, is these dark experiences you've been through, and that's probably what makes you this type of person who's like only talking when it's absolutely necessary, because you see the power of words. You see how the power of your soul is expressed in these moments when you like get to speak the truth, or even in those moments when you just aren't talking at all. It's like your silences hold the most weight in those moments when, like, silence is the only answer, because whatever is being said doesn't matter. You've changed people's lives because of that. You didn't even have to say anything. All it took was your silence. But that's how you're underestimated, is in your spirit. You're underestimated of your spirit, like your ability to have lack of ego, the ability to shed your ego and think of the collective, your ability to have maintain control over yourself and your emotions so that you're able to hold back on speaking until the right moment, to hold back on expressing yourself until the right moment. People underestimate the fact that you're quiet and what that means. People underestimate that you seem like a mysterious or weird or emo person, because they just can't understand your level of vibe. And people underestimate how smart you are. People underestimate your words and how smart you are. Because once you do speak, it hits like whiplash. Pile 2. Hi, Pile 3. You chose this Tiger's Eye. It's gonna be a reading. And how are you underestimated? The Sun reversed. 3 of Swords. Or 5 of Swords, my bad. And Justice reverse. Y'all aren't really underestimated by friends or relationships most of the time. Some of you could be, but for this pile, I'm feeling like it's mostly family members who underestimate you and your power. Like, these family members are most often underestimating you and your value. Like, that's most often what they do. Like, 8, 9 times out of 10, really. Maybe you have like a really toxic karmic family or really big karmic family, but it's like most of the time it's them underestimating you, but everyone else is cool with you and like definitely doesn't underestimate you because you're not the type of person to be underestimated. It's like people in your family are so quick to underestimate you and just get mad at you or yell at you or just spit at you and project onto you and just want to destroy your happiness, and just they're so passionate about it. They're so mad about it. Uncle, look at him. Look at how much he's screaming. He literally looks evil. It's like people's immediate reaction to seeing you or anything you do, like people in your family, their immediate reaction is just, what? Why would you do this? How don't you see how this affects me? Don't you see how much blah blah blah? Don't you see how you can't even do this? You're such a weakling. Like, they just assume the worst of the situation about you because they underestimate you and your abilities. And your desires. Like, they think that the things that you desire are less than or not materially helpful. I don't know. It's like the type of family to only care about like wealth and power and positions of authority. Yeah, any emotionality, any stability within your emotions is squashed in your family dynamic. It's like you're not allowed to have that because of the way that they underestimate you. If this isn't about like your family, like if this doesn't resonate, you need to click to another pile maybe, or even just another reading, because it's definitely going to be about family. So yeah, it's like your presence just triggers them and just makes them so angry when you haven't even done anything. And so that's why they want to underestimate you, because they think like it's all your fault. You're always the problem. You're always a bad person. You're always negative. You're always only thinking about yourself and not thinking about your bad choices or how this is going to affect other people. It's like, because you're the problem and you always have to be the problem, like that's always their answer to the situation. That's why they underestimate you, because they think you're less than. Especially your desires and your dreams. It's like your desires and your dreams really ticks them off. They're like, what do you mean you like this? You're supposed to like the things I like. But anyway, how so yeah, you're most often you're how much is very often within your family, like 9 times out of 10. But with other people, most of the time not really. It's like, yeah, no, other people don't underestimate you besides your family. So as for how you're underestimated, we have Justice reverse, 5 of Swords, and the Sun reverse. I don't know. It's this major karmic energy where it's like you're put in this position in your family of being like the white light that everyone hates. 555 on the clock that I had when I said that. And like perceives that part of you as a weakness. And it's just major karmic energy where like you're constantly experiencing injustices. Like your family underestimates your ability to take their injustice constantly. Constantly. Like it's gotten to a point where it's become part of your routine. You're used to it. Even when it gets particularly bad on some days, you're just like, you've developed the ability to get through it easily and breezily, especially with how wise of a person you are on the inside. So they couldn't stand a day in your shoes. Like the type of shit you put up with, the injustices you put up with by them, like, and it's constant every single day. They couldn't stand a minute in your shoes. Like you were very strong, constantly dealing with their injustices and just getting through it in the most balanced manner possible. And they don't see that about you. They underestimate that about you. They're just like, oh, whatever. Pile 3 is the problem anyway, so I don't care if they feel bad. I don't care if they're crying. I don't care if this is hard for them, because they're the one causing this injustice, when nobody in your family realizes that all of the injustice is coming onto you, and you're bearing that burden for everyone else, from everyone else, because of everyone else. It's like maybe you've had to be the middleman, or maybe you've not even been the middleman. You're just like sort of the punching bag where everybody goes to like pour all their like annoyances onto. Or if it's like a gossiping type toxic karmic family, then everyone constantly goes to you to be like, oh, so and so did this, so and so, what do you think about this? Oh, did you know about this? Why didn't you tell me about this? And there's just so much drama going on, so much of like people projecting onto you and being like, oh, this is going on, oh, I'm so mad about this, or even just yelling at you about it, when it's not even a problem that you could help solve. It's all about them. And it's like you're very meticulous about getting through it in the most balanced way possible. So you're just like, this is what you need. This is what you need. I'm just going to stay silent with you because that's nothing else is going to help. And then it's like you direct all of the energies in the perfect way that like to keep the burden most off of you, but also not sending it back to the people in your family, because then they would just get even more angry and try to hurt you in some way, like because they think you're attacking them with their own energy. And it's like it's so stressful and it's so much drama, but you constantly are able to like deal with it and direct it, and it's always a mental thing for you. It's always a mental battle. It's always gossip, it's always drama, it's always like you having to intellectualize and do everything perfectly, like Virgo energy of just do everything perfectly. And your family underestimates your ability to deal with this, all of this stress at once, and to be able to like compartmentalize it in a way where you can deal with it the best, and acknowledge it in the best way you can with what you have. Instead, they just see this as a weakness within you. Or they only see your weaknesses that come from this, or the consequences that come from your fatigue, your anxiety, depression, all of the things that take a toll on you because of you constantly dealing with and holding yourself together through these mental stressors. And it's like they see that those things of that have taken a toll on you, and they're like, you're weak, you're depressed, you're lazy, you're choosing to be depressed, you're having a hard time, you're having anxiety. No. Back in my day, or all the things I have to do and with what I'm doing right now, it's like people in your family constantly want to be giving you grief and talking about how bad their situation is, or talking about how so and so did this or so and so did this. But as soon as you try to express yourself, not even to them, but just try to be like yawning or like tired or doing something by yourself, they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Why should I care about this? Why should I care about this? You're so annoying. You're such an attention whore. Why are you always trying to make other people care about your situation when you didn't even do anything? You were just trying to take a breather. So your family underestimates how much you can deal with their bullshit all the time. They really underestimate how fucking strong a person you are because of how much you constantly had to deal with this your whole life. They underestimate your ability about being able to be really smart about getting through things because you're literally forced to do it. The sun in reverse. They underestimate your shadow side. It's like they think you're the light of the family. They think that you're the scapegoat. They think you're the person that everyone's punching bag that they can just turn to. But as soon as you're the bad guy, as soon as your shadow side shows up, as soon as your ego shows up, it's like everyone's heads turned, the room went silent, like, what? What's going on here? And then everybody's talking about, did you see what Pile 3 did? Pile 3 tried to attack. Pile 3 had a mental breakdown. Pile 3 freaked the fuck out. Suddenly everyone can't shut the fuck up about it. These people who are constantly dogging on you, constantly harassing you, constantly not treating you with respect, would never once fathom that you would feel hurt by that you would want to be getting away from that. They couldn't fathom that you could have feelings too of like being annoyed by them. Like, you're annoyed at me? Imagine how fucking tired I am of your constant bullshit. And like they're the ones to push you to the edge. They're the ones to push you to the point where you like shadow side is coming through, where your ego is coming through like, no bitch, no. And they want to give you grief about it. They want to act like you're such a bad guy, you're such a scary guy for it. Like, bro, people underestimate your ability to like scare people. Like, when they're actually scared, once your shadow side comes out, like, that's why they talk about it so much. They're like, oh my god, Pal 3 did that. I was so scared. I can't believe they did that. Like, it's because you're actually fucking scary, bro. Like, they can't just push you to that point and not, like, not be, they can't just be surprised when it, like, comes out of you like a big burst, because they never gave you a chance to, like, get it out of you by yourself. They just kept cramming all this stuff into you, and then when it finally comes out, I don't know. They just underestimate your ability to, like, be a bitch and fuck people over. And then when it does happen, they want to act so surprised, like they didn't provoke it in the first place. And you can really be a bitch. Like, you can really fuck people over. And most of the time you don't, because you're a really good person. You just deal with these injustices. You deal with the stress. You find a way to deal with it. But at some point, you're like, I'm tired of this injustice. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. And that's all. And none of them can escape that. And they're like, fuck. They want to be so angry. They all want to be yelling at you. All want to be blaming you. But it's so funny because the whole time they thought they could just keep doing that forever. Like, they underestimated you. They thought, oh, I can keep doing this forever. We can all just keep dogging on pile 1, keep using pile 1 like we do. They won't even notice. We can all be in on it together. Like, haha, look at pile 1, haha. I'm sorry, pile 3. But in the end, it doesn't matter to you. Well, it does matter. It matters a lot. It doesn't matter in that you only have to, like, deal with that around them. When you're with other people, you feel a lot better. And it's like, it's the type of karmic family you can't escape, really. I don't know. So you're able to release that and let go of that when you're not around them, because you've just gotten used to that life and not being able to escape it. But it's just like, when you're with them, you're constantly under pressure, and they really thought that they could just keep putting you under that pressure forever, and you would just never snap back. You would never show your ego or shadow side at them. You would never give them a taste of their own medicine. And it's like, oh no, Pal 3 is so scary. They're so mean. They yelled at me, like, just like you've done to me my whole life, bro. And they just can't fathom it at all.